The watch industry tricks buyers into paying premium prices for budget-grade components hidden behind heavy marketing. Today, we're counting down 10 of the worst offenders. These include fashion labels licensing their logos onto commodity parts, brands inventing centuries of heritage they never had, lifestyle watches that fail the very activities they advertise, and companies built entirely on perpetual fake sales. We'll crack open the cases, expose the real markups, and reveal 3 brands that actually deliver honest value for your money. Starting at number 10, a designer name you'll find in every department store. In 10th place, Michael Kors rides the power of a luxury logo straight onto millions of wrists, but the reality inside the case tells a different story. Beneath the gold-toned finishes and runway-inspired dials, almost every Michael Kors watch relies on a basic Miyota 2035 quartz movement, a mass-produced module that costs less than a dinner out. The Essex MK4906, for example, houses this same movement, paired with a Renata R37 battery and capped by a mineral glass crystal that rates just 5 to 6 on the Mohs hardness scale. That means a stray key or a countertop can leave a permanent scratch. The 5 atmospheres of water resistance is barely enough for a quick shower, let alone a swim. The retail price hovers between $150 and $250, but teardown photos and industry cost benchmarks put the actual build at just $30 to $50. That is a markup of 5 to 6 times, with nearly all of it going to branding and distribution, not engineering. Michael Kors sets the stage for the fashion brand trap, big name cachet, commodity internals, and a price tag that far outpaces the watch's true value. Number 9. Emporio Armani leans heavily on the language of Italian luxury, but the reality inside the case is far less romantic. The AR2453 model, like most of the brand's quartz line, is powered by a Ronda R150S movement, a generic Swiss-designed module that is stamped right on the plate and sourced through the same mass production channels as dozens of other fashion watches. This movement, with a wholesale cost often under $10, stands in stark contrast to the retail price of $200 to $300. The brand's catalog and website are careful with wording, using terms like Swiss-inspired and Italian elegance. But a teardown reveals the truth. The watch is assembled in Asian factories under license, and the heart of the timepiece is a catalog quartz module, not a product of Italian craftsmanship. Even the crystal is inconsistent. Some models quietly swap in mineral glass, which scratches at a Mohs hardness of 5 or 6, while only select, more expensive lines feature sapphire. Water resistance claims reach as high as 20 ATM on a handful of SKU models, but the vast majority sit at far less, offering little real-world protection. For consumers, Emporio Armani's watches are a lesson in how heritage branding and high-gloss marketing can be used to mask outsourced components and a cost-to-retail ratio that favors image over substance. In 8th place, Tommy Hilfiger cloaks mass-market specs in classic Americana branding, but the technical details tell a scattered story. The model 1782744, widely sold online, is powered by a Seiko Instruments VH63 quartz movement, an entry-level Japanese module found in dozens of fashion watches, with a wholesale cost under $15. Yet the manufacturer suggested retail price lands between $120 and $180, and that price buys more confusion than clarity. Retailer listings for the same reference number show conflicting water resistance ratings: 3 atmospheres on specialist sites, 5 atmospheres on Amazon, with no consistent answer from the brand. That means buyers can't easily know if their watch is safe for a swim or just for splashes at the sink. Case construction is equally mixed, blending stainless steel with TR90 polymer composite, a strategy that reduces weight and cost, but also reduces durability. Even the crystal is standard mineral glass, prone to scratches at a Mohs hardness of 5 to 6. For consumers, Tommy Hilfiger's watch line is a warning. Marketing polish can't cover up the risk of mismatched specs and ambiguous build quality. Number 7. Fossil operates less like a traditional watchmaker and more like a corporate engine supplying the same internals to a parade of fashion brands. Open Fossil's annual Form 10K, and the supplier list reads like a who's who of movement original equipment manufacturers. Miyota from Citizen, Ronda from Switzerland. These are the exact same modules found inside Michael Kors, Emporio Armani, Diesel, and more. Over 14 licensed brands, all drawing from the same component pool. Take the Fossil Heritage Automatic 3262. Beneath the retro dial, you'll find a Miyota automatic movement, identical to those in countless designer watches. The manufacturer suggested retail price lands between $180 and $250, but the estimated build cost rarely crosses $55. That margin is not going into better materials or engineering. It is fueling brand licensing and marketing deals. Even the case and crystal suppliers are shared across the group, with mineral glass topping most models at a Mohs hardness of 5 to 6, offering little more scratch resistance than a cheap department store watch. For buyers, the Fossil ecosystem means you are not paying for unique craftsmanship or horological innovation. You are buying into a supply chain where the logo on the dial is just a label, not a guarantee of substance or value. Number 6. Stuhrling. Original leans heavily on a storybook legacy, but the paperwork tells a different tale. Every marketing line points to a supposed 19th century heritage. References to 1865 and Swiss tradition appear everywhere, from product tags to the company about page. Yet a quick check of the Delaware Corporate Registry shows Stuhrling Original LLC was not even formed until 2002. The gap between the claimed founding date and actual incorporation is not a footnote. It is the foundation of the brand's entire pitch. The deception does not stop at invented history. Stuhrling's watches are almost always advertised at 60 to 70% off, with limited time discounts that never actually end. Archive snapshots from major marketplaces show the same models, like the original classic automatic, listed at $199 manufacturer suggested retail price, but sold on eBay and Amazon for $65 to $80, week after week. This is not clearance pricing. It is a perpetual fire sale designed to make buyers feel like they are getting a deal, when in reality, the so-called original price is almost never paid. Inside the case, the story is just as thin. Most Stuhrling models use off-the-shelf Seiko NH35A automatics or generic quartz modules paired with mineral glass crystals that scratch at a Mohs hardness of 5 to 6. There is nothing wrong with these components at the right price, but when paired with a fake heritage and endless discounts, the value proposition collapses. Stuhrling closes out the era of invented watch legacies and opens the door to another red flag: the danger of brands that rely on artificial markdowns to move low-cost commodity parts. Number 5. Nixon sells the image of the ultimate surf and skate companion, with bold claims of 100 meters of water resistance splashed across its product pages. But when put through an independent hydrostatic pressure test, a Nixon time teller failed at just 2.8 atmospheres, about 30 meters, not even a third of its advertised depth. The time-stamped failure, captured in lab footage, shows water droplets forming behind the crystal long before the watch should have reached its limit. That is not a marketing quibble. It is a functional breakdown that can destroy the movement with a single swim. Inside, the reality does not improve. Nixon relies on generic Chinese quartz modules, often Miyota compatible, but produced by OEM manufacturers with no brand marking. and caps them with basic mineral glass. That crystal rates just 5 to 6 on the Mohs hardness scale, meaning a scrape from a boardwalk railing or a sandy wrist can leave a permanent scar. The retail price, typically $90 to $130, buys little more than a lifestyle logo and a promise that cannot survive real-world use. For buyers, Nixon's adventure branding is a warning. Physics and pressure do not care about ad campaigns. If a surf watch leaks under shallow water, no amount of marketing can justify the risk. Number 4. Diesel turns the volume up with oversized cases and a dial crowded by what looks like a squadron of chronograph subdials. But take a closer look inside a Diesel Mega Chief or Mr. Daddy, and the illusion falls apart. Those subdials? They are decorative, glued in place with hands that never move. Watch repair videos show the pushers on the side are often hollow, sometimes even plated plastic, serving no function except to bulk up the look. The movement inside is a basic Miyota quartz, a workhorse module that costs the brand less than $20 per unit. All the visual drama, the multiple crowns, extra pushers, and layered dials is engineered for shelf appeal rather than function. Cases can measure up to 57 millimeters across, yet the actual water resistance is a modest 3 to 5 atmospheres, barely enough for hand washing. Owners report that the case plating, especially gold or gunmetal finishes, tends to flake off within a year, leaving a patchwork of exposed base metal. MSRP sits between $110 and $160, but the build cost rarely exceeds $35. Diesel's strategy is to sell spectacle, big, bold, and loaded with fake complexity. For consumers, it is a lesson in how cosmetic features and lifestyle branding can trick buyers into paying for functions that simply do not exist. Coming to the top 3, Invicta stands as the poster child for the perpetual fake sale. The entire business model is built around inflated manufacturers' suggested retail prices and headline markdowns that never actually go away. Take the Pro Diver 40mm. Invicta lists it with a manufacturer's suggested retail price of $149, yet price trackers like Keepa and ActaWiz show it selling for $69 nearly every week of the year. That's an 82% markdown, not a one-off clearance, but the permanent price. In fact, 28% of Invicta's so-called original prices never even appear in real transaction logs. The manufacturer's suggested retail price exists mainly to anchor the discount, not to reflect any genuine retail history. Behind the up to 70% off banners and warehouse clearance ads, the numbers tell a different story. The actual build cost for a typical Invicta quartz or automatic piece hovers between $15 and $25. Even at the sale price, the cost to retail ratio is still 4 to 6 times the build cost, with only a fraction of that going to components. Cases are usually stamped in China, capped with mineral glass crystals that scratch at a Mohs hardness of 5 to 6, barely more durable than window glass. Movements are often Seiko NH35 automatics or generic quartz modules, both reliable but unremarkable at this price tier. The perpetual discount strategy is not just a marketing quirk. It is a calculated system that manipulates buyer psychology. By keeping the deal front and center, Invicta turns the act of buying into a game of chasing savings that do not actually exist. For consumers, the lesson is clear. When a watch is always on sale, the real value is whatever the lowest price will bear, not the fantasy manufacturer's suggested retail price on the tag. Invicta's approach sets the bar for badge premium brands that follow, making it a textbook case of financial deception on a mass scale. Number 2. TAG Heuer Formula 1 stands as a cautionary tale in prestige pricing. The Formula 1 quartz line trades on the strength of the TAG Heuer name, a brand with deep roots in motorsport and Swiss watchmaking lore. But beneath the racing-inspired dial and the promise of Swiss-made quality, the story shifts. Independent teardown videos reveal a Ronda 5138 quartz movement at the heart of most Formula 1 models. Ronda, while Swiss-based, supplies these modules to dozens of brands, and the wholesale cost lands between $40 and $55 per unit. There is nothing inherently wrong with the Ronda quartz, but it is a basic, mass-produced engine, a far cry from the in-house mechanical movements that define true Swiss horology. The casework tells a similar story. Procurement records and customs filings show stainless steel cases and bracelets fabricated in Guangdong, China, before being shipped to Switzerland for final assembly. The laser-etched Made in China mark, often tucked under the clasp or caseback, is easy to miss, but hard to reconcile with a price tag that starts at $400 and stretches to $650 or more. The sapphire crystal is a genuine upgrade, rating a 9 on the Mohs scale for scratch resistance, but it is paired with an entry-level quartz core and outsourced casework. The total build cost, including movement, case, crystal, and final Swiss finishing, rarely exceeds $120. For buyers, the gap between retail price and internal value is stark. A Formula One quartz commands a premium that is hard to justify when the same Ronda movement powers watches at a fraction of the cost. Even the water resistance, rated at 10 atmospheres, is standard for the category and matched by far less expensive alternatives. The Formula One line is a clear example of badge engineering. The lion's share of what you pay goes to branding and distribution, not to the mechanics on your wrist. For those seeking real Swiss engineering and honest value, it is a reminder to look beyond the logo. And finally, in first place, Daniel Wellington sets the standard for everything wrong with the modern fashion watch industry. The business model is stripped down to its purest form. Take a $2 to $8 quartz movement, a hollow snap-on caseback, and a $1 synthetic strap. Then wrap it all in a tidal wave of influencer hype. Tear-down photos reveal the uncomfortable truth. Inside every Daniel Wellington classic, the movement is a bare-bones Miyota, or an unbranded Shenzhen module, stamped only with a generic code. There is no shock protection, no jewel bearings, and no attempt at engineering refinement. The caseback pops off with a fingernail and offers zero water resistance beyond a splash. It is officially rated at just 3 ATM, which means do not even think about a shower, let alone a swim. The crystal is standard mineral glass, scratching at a Mohs hardness of 5 to 6, so a stray zipper or countertop will leave a permanent scar. But it is the gulf between build cost and retail price that cements Daniel Wellington's place at the top of this list. Wholesale part catalogs and industry teardown reports peg the total manufacturing cost, movement, case, crystal, strap at just $10 to $20. Yet the retail price sits stubbornly at $200 to $230, a markup of 10 to 20 times. That difference does not fund better materials or assembly. It fuels the most aggressive influencer network in the watch world. Thousands of paid posts flood Instagram and TikTok, each one carefully staged to sell the illusion of minimalist Scandinavian luxury. The reality is a commodity product, mass-produced in Chinese factories and sold almost entirely on social proof. Even the so-called Swedish design is a marketing construct. Final assembly and finishing happen overseas, and there is no in-house engineering or horological pedigree to speak of. Daniel Wellington is the apex of the fashion watch pyramid. Maximum markup, minimum substance, and a business model that relies on social media virality rather than any claim to durability, accuracy, or craftsmanship. For anyone seeking real value, the lesson is simple. Do not pay for a logo and a hashtag when the same $2 movement is hiding inside dozens of generic watches. The checklist is complete: lowest build quality, weakest specs, and the widest reach of deceptive marketing. Nothing else in the industry comes close. Across all 10 brands, one pattern stands out. Marketing muscle consistently outweighs engineering substance. Flashy logos, inflated manufacturer-suggested retail prices, and imagined heritages hide basic quartz modules, mineral crystals barely harder than window glass, and cases stamped from low-cost brass. In watches, image can cost you 10 times more than function. But real value is measurable by movement, materials, and transparency. The right watch proves you're not just buying a name. Demand the specs, accept nothing less.